The housing market here in Vermont remains much slower than what we saw over the past few years post-pandemic, but that doesn't mean we will see a housing market crash. It does not mean that home prices are going to come crashing down across the state of Vermont. What I think we're seeing right now is the start of a return to a pre-pandemic housing market. Now, we're not there yet, and things need to continue on the trend that they're on for quite some time before we return to a pre-pandemic, more regular housing market. But overall, we are trending in that direction. Active inventory is up about 30% year over year. Median days on market are up about 40% year over year. And unsold listings, meaning listings that are taken off the market because they couldn't find a buyer during their time on the market, that's up about 60% year over year. Now, that represents a very small fraction of all the listings that hit the market here in Vermont, but it's still up significantly from what we've seen in years past. Now, at the same time, it's not necessarily a slow market either. I submitted an offer with some buyers of mine recently, and there were multiple offers on the home. They submitted an offer well over list price, and they were all cash. They still didn't get it. Another agent in my office submitted an offer on a home in Essex. There were 10 offers on that property. They didn't go quite high enough in price, and somebody else got it. I wouldn't be surprised if that home sells for $100,000 or even more over what the sellers were asking for. So it's a very nuanced time in the market. Yes, there are good deals out there. If you're a home buyer looking to purchase a home in Vermont, you can find a home that's been on the market for a little while and get a good price on it. And if you're a seller, it doesn't mean that your home is necessarily going to sit on the market for quite some time, but I wouldn't expect multiple offers. I wouldn't expect your home to sell within the first weekend like we saw over the past few years. So it's really a nuanced market. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to take a look at the most recent market data here in Vermont specifically to give you the best information as a home buyer or a home seller and help you position yourself, whether you're a home seller, to be one of those lucky few sellers who receives multiple offers and sells their home quickly. Or if you're a home buyer, how do you find that property that's being sold by somebody who's willing to give you a good deal? So we're going to talk about all that in this video. Before we do, my name's Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, all of my contact information is in the description below. Feel free to reach out to me directly, call, text, or email. It all works. I would be happy to help you. So let's jump into the charts. All right, we're over here looking at the statewide data, and you can see here the median sales price. Yes, it's up 8% year over year, and it's up 10% month over month, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. What really matters is the general trend of where home prices are heading, and you can see they're not dropping by any means. I wouldn't say that there's been an 8% increase year over year. There's monthly fluctuations in these numbers because we don't do a huge volume of sales or transactions here in Vermont, which is why things go up and down significantly on a monthly basis. But overall, the trend is remaining relatively flat. And that's what I think will happen throughout 2025. Of course, time will tell. So not a whole lot to talk about in terms of median sales price. It's not really going up too much, not really going down. Again, I don't think we're going to see a housing market crash. When we take a look at the median days on market, this is what I was talking about when I said the housing market is much slower than it was a few years ago. We can see here the median days on market's at 38 days. Yes, it's lower than what we saw in December. That's to be expected, right? There's less inventory on the market at the start of a new year in the winter time. And in December, people are focused on the holidays. They're focused on their families, and they're not necessarily focused about purchasing and moving into a new property. So when we take a look at what happened in years past, we can see that last year, days on market was at 27 days. The year before, it was at 26 days. 2021, when things were really crazy, it was at 24 days. And again, tends to be one of the slower months of the year as far as days on market and the pace of sales that these homes are selling. But still, this 38 days on market is much higher than what we saw in the past. It does show that the housing market has slowed across the state. We're taking a look at single family homes across the entire state of Vermont in this chart. The reason why I don't include condos is because in my opinion, the condo market around some of these ski areas, it behaves differently than the year-round single family home market across the entire state. So I think just looking at single family homes gives us a better indication as to what's going on in the overall housing market. Now, unsold listings, which is what I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we see that there are 163 unsold listings in January. Now, this could be anything from a seller deciding not to sell their home because they haven't found the right buyer, or it could be a seller taking their home off the market, maybe trying a different realtor, or just relisting their home when the market picks up in the spring. But it still shows more homes aren't selling this year than last year, right? There are fewer buyers out there on the market. Now, when we take a look at new listings and what's happening there, new listings are up about 12% year over year. So more sellers are choosing to list their home. Again, that's adding to the active inventory that's on the market. And causing the market to slow down, right? More sellers are listing their homes. That's adding to the inventory that's already across the state building up and giving more options to buyers out there, which takes some of the leverage away from the sellers. Now, that being said, active inventory is still well below what we saw pre-pandemic. We're only at 1,000 listings right now. When we take a look at 2019, in January of 2019, we were at almost 3,700 listings. So we're at about a quarter of the listings as where we would expect to be based on pre-pandemic levels. Now, when we take a look at the amount of homes that are selling for over list price, I think this is a really interesting statistic. You can see this huge drop off in homes that are selling for over list price across the state. Only about 20% of properties, 1 in 5 properties, is selling for over the price that they're asking for it. Most properties, 80% of the listings out there, are selling for list price or below, which is a huge change from what we saw during the pandemic. And again, it's the beginning of a return to normal. This is about what we saw in 2020 during the start of the pandemic, and we're slowly getting down to 2019 levels. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the spring market. I can really see it going one of two ways, where more buyers will be out there in the spring market looking to shop for homes, and they could be competing against each other with the limited inventory that's out there on the market, which would cause the number of listings selling for over list price to increase. Or we could see more sellers jump into the market and increase the amount of inventory out there. And we could see this number start to dip lower than what we saw before. So really, a drastically different market than what we saw over the past few years. But again, sections of this market, the anecdotal stories that I gave from my personal experience representing buyers in this market, is that some listings are still selling for well over list price because of the limited inventory out there, right? That's the key thing. There aren't many homes on the market. So if you've been searching for 3 years looking for a specific property out there, and that property finally hits the market, well, there might be 10 other people who are looking for that exact same property and competing against you when you decide to make an offer. Now, when we take a look at what's going on in Chittenden County specifically, here in Chittenden County, we look at single family homes and condos because we don't have a lot of the ski area rental vacation condos that some other markets in the state have. Here in Chittenden County, it's mostly year-round residential condos. So I think it's good to look at both single family homes and condos in Chittenden County. We can see here, similar story with median sales price. Again, the month over month and the year over year data, it's not something that I paid too much attention to. What I take a look at is the general trend of this graph. We can see here, it's possible that we don't hit this peak that we saw back in June of last year. Things might remain at the level they are now, but they're certainly not dropping. We're not seeing the bottom fall out of home prices in Chittenden County at all. Things are remaining relatively stable. When we take a look at some of the other metrics here, median days on market, it's a little bit hotter than what we see across the rest of the state. Chittenden County is where Burlington is. It's the most populous county in Vermont. And there's a bit more demand. So 15 days on market, again, we're above where we were the past few years, and we're starting to return to this pre-pandemic normal. We can see even before the pandemic, the market was relatively hot here in Chittenden County, although in January of 2019, it was about 20 days on market for the median days. We take a look at January of 2018, it was 37 days. So this is the slowest, what historically has been the slowest month as far as pace of sales and days on market go for sellers around Chittenden County. We take a look at active inventory. Again, similar story. It's starting to dip down a little bit here, but we're still up 30% year over year. So there's more listings, albeit 41 more listings, right? There's not a huge sample size here in Chittenden County, but there are still more homes on the market than what we saw last year. Again, we're starting to return to normal. We're still well below 2019 levels. When we take a look at January 2019, 391. We have a little under half as many listings on the market today than what we saw in January of 2019, but things are generally starting to trend back towards that direction. I'm not sure if we'll get all the way back there this year or really when we'll get back to that pre-pandemic market, if it'll be in the near future or not. Certainly, higher interest rates will help us balance this market out a little bit more. Again, it's not really good for anybody out there. It makes things slower for sellers. It makes purchasing a home much harder for home buyers out there. But at the same time, it would start to balance out the market and return us to a more stable market like we saw back in 2019. Now, when we take a look at the levels of where things were, we take a look at all this inventory and really the month supply of inventory, both in Chittenden County and across the state. We see here that month supply sits at 1.6 month supply. We have a long way to go before we're back to pre-pandemic levels. Month supply is the ratio between home buyers and home sellers out there. So it's a good way to tell, are we in a seller's market? Are we in a buyer's market? We can see Chittenden County clearly still a seller's market. We take a look at the state as a whole. We'll look at month supply, if I can find it here, month supply of inventory. Again, we're still below that 4-month supply that we need to be in order to be technically considered a balanced market, but we're trending that way. And we still have a long way to go until we're back to 2019 levels. So, what can you do as a home buyer or seller out here? Well, what I think you can do, if you're a home seller out there, what you want to do is you want to try to make your property the most attractive property in your town, based on the price range that you're listing it at. So, if you think your home is worth around $500,000, take a look at the other listings that are on the market right now and the listings that have recently sold, recently gone under contract at around that $500,000 price point. And what small changes can you do to your home to make it a little bit nicer, a little bit more attractive for buyers out there? You don't need to do a whole lot, but maybe it's replacing the old carpet, or maybe it's repainting a room or two. Maybe it's replacing a vanity in your bathroom, something like that, that is not going to cost you a whole lot, doesn't require a ton of renovation, but it makes you stand out compared to the other listings that are on the market or have recently hit the market in your price range. Again, we're talking about, maybe a few $1,000 investment to hopefully get multiple offers and still list for that $500,000 price point, but maybe you end up selling for 510, 515, 525, and you end up getting more for your property because there's multiple buyers now interested in your home. Now, if you're a buyer out there and you're in the market, I would focus on the homes that have been on the market for a little while. There are some well-maintained properties that have sat on the market, either because they're listed a little bit too high, but there's some listings out there that I really am shocked that they're still on the market, and I'm sure those sellers are getting a little bit nervous. They're probably a little bit more motivated. So take a look at the homes that have sat on the market for a little while in your price range and try to make an offer under list price and just see what the seller says. Again, I would wait at least a week, ideally 2 weeks before you make an offer under list price. Usually that first week on the market, sellers are hoping to get list price or above. Again, they're still hoping to be one of the 20% of homes that gets multiple offers and sells for over asking. But if you're outside of that first week and the home's been on the market for a reasonable amount of time, odds are that showings have started to slow. There aren't many people consistently looking at the home, and the owners will likely consider an offer under list price. So let me know what you folks think of everything. Leave me a comment. What are you seeing out there in the housing market? Of course, if you have any specific questions to your search and you'd like to talk to me directly, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email anytime. I'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.